Want to teach your bird to step up? Watch this video to find out how. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Parrot Teacher. I'm David and today we are doing the second video in my core skills series. We're looking at step up training. If you missed my first video, I talked about some tips to set you up for success, well worth watching. But today we're just going to be focusing on teaching your bird to step up because it is a core skill. It's absolutely essential, it's really useful and really helpful for anyone who wants to build a relationship with their bird, be able to handle them and basically make it consent based. They're stepping up voluntarily, and to make stepping up consent based and voluntary behaviour has to be trained rather than just expecting your parrot to do it. Now, a lot of people just expect their parrot to just step up. That is just something they should know and they should want to do. And for some parrots, just stepping onto you is worth it for them. They want to be near you, they enjoy that. But for a lot of parrots, and especially any parrot that's a bit nervous, you want to formally train it. And if you do formally train it and it's done properly, that step up's going to be consistent, that step up's going to be maintained, and whenever you need them to do it, they're going to want to do it rather than you having to force them. Because a lot of these old school techniques about pushing your hand in and forcing them, they lead to biting sorts of problems. So it's better to train it properly and formally to make it the best for you and your bird. So like I talked about in my core sort of tips video, remember, always reinforce your bird for stepping up. It's consent based, you want them to want to do it. Make sure you know what's going to motivate them to do it, and you're going to have a lot more success. The more reinforcement you put it, which is basically the more treat, the more value you put into doing something, the more likely your bird's going to want to do it. So use those high value treats and you'll be doing fine. Now, as I said, stepping up is a trick. It's something that needs to be trained properly rather than just assumed. So what we want to do is we want to present our hand in a consistent manner. Me and Sophie tend to like to use our hands like this. Other people use fingers like that. Other people hold them like that. Just be consistent. Pick a way of doing it and be consistent. If you have a larger parrot, sometimes this is more stable. The smaller, you can get away with a couple of fingers or a finger, whatever. Pick something and stick to it and make sure you're always doing it. The next thing you're going to want to do is hold the treat above and behind your hand. So here's your step up hand, your parrot's on this side, and you want to hold your treat above and behind. Why is that so important? Because your bird's attention is going to be focused upwards and towards that treat rather than down towards your hand. If you don't do this, then the parrot may lead with their beak, they may accidentally nip you, and then they may get into the habit of it and it's not a proper step up, it's more just a step forward. So we want them to step up onto the hand and their attention to be up here nice and high, so they get onto it, they get their lovely reward, and then the whole behaviour is done and they're really happy with it. So once you've got these two elements together, you want to make it a bit more formal. So when you present your hand, you want to tell your bird something like step up. We tend to just literally say let's step up or come or something like that, whatever you want. Have your treat up there, so you present your hand, you tell them, you ask them, it's important to ask them, not to tell them. You ask them to step onto your hand, you present the treat, they step onto it, you mark that they've done it, you say good, and then they get their lovely reward. And if your bird's a bit nervous, you can reward at this point for just putting one foot on there, or you can let them step back off your hand as well, because that's important too. But make the behaviour a whole fluid thing and make sure that every element's there. You present your hand, you ask them to do something, they then do the behaviour, you present the treat, they get it, you mark it, then you can finish it off however you want. Some people like to present the treat as they ask, that's fine initially, but later on you want to phase out of presenting the treat because then you'll know it's trained. When you've got it up there, you may just be luring them onto your hand, and some people say, oh, luring's terrible, don't do that. It's fine, it's a way of training something initially. You know, lure them on, get them used to the whole behaviour, everything's ready, then you can phase it out and literally step up, and then you can get the treat out of your pouch or whatever. Now let's troubleshoot some step up problems. For example, if your parrot's very hesitant to step up and they're a little bit nervous, maybe you can break it down into smaller steps. Maybe you can present your hand, you can hold up that treat, and if they just look at it, initially you can treat them. If they put one foot on your hand, that's fine, you can give them a reward for that, and then you can slowly build them up to it if you're having trouble with it. But again, follow the whole cycle, always reinforce, make sure that you're doing everything properly and you'll have a success with it. Again, once it's trained, you can even phase out the treat once in a while. You can just provide a treat intermittently. With our birds, they're happy to step up most of the time, but even then, occasionally I will go back and I will do formal training sessions just to maintain the behaviour. Because if you do maintain the behaviour and you occasionally do formal sessions, you're going to keep it, and when you really need them to step up in an emergency situation, if they're in danger, they will. It makes everything consent based and makes it much more voluntary and much better for you and your parrot. So in summarise, always reinforce, present your hand, give them a cue to step up onto your hand, bridge the behaviour when they do it successfully, give them a reward, and then if they have to, let them step back off, because that's useful too. If you have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear from you, but in the meantime, take care and see you later.